Hello, hello! I promised I would make a Tashkent commentary. So here we go. I've been playing the ship quite a bit actually in ranked. But I decided that it would be better to make a standard battle because it will showcase the ship better. Now, one of the first things you'll probably notice is that the ship is absolutely huge. It looks like a cruiser, but it's a destroyer. And this huge size actually works against it quite heavily because you're a much easier target to hit than the Kiev. And I noticed this quite highly in my ranked games as well. Like until rank 5 you could easily play the Tashkent, hunting down ships and killing deities and so forth. But build from rank 5 to 2, basically the better bracket, the Tashkent simply doesn't work. You just get, everyone focuses you instantly and you just get shot to pieces. You lack the maneuverability and the small size of the Kiev to be able to avoid shots as easily as you could in the, well, basically as easily as you could in the Kiev. You're just much clumsier in the Tashkent, and this clumsiness is actually quite a big deal because you rely on not being hit very heavily in this ship. Now, ironically, this means that you basically have to sit back further. You have to play more defensive. You can't, on the Kiev, if I saw enemy DD, I would basically push up, rush them, and take the fight to them straight away. But you can't really do the same thing in the Tashkent because you're just an easier target. Now, this means that you basically have to be more of a long-range sniper, or well, not technically long-range, but more sit at the 10-kilometer range and basically take pot shots at people left, right and center, like I'm doing at this Mayhem now. Strangely though, the Tashkent actually has less range than the Kiev. A whole 1 kilometer is less range with advanced firing training, which is actually quite a big deal, especially since you rather sit further back in this ship than you do in the Kiev. So overall, I expected this ship to be an upgrade from the Kiev, because, well, you get more HP, you get longer range torpedoes. All of this made me think that this would be an upgrade, but really, it feels like a downgrade in every single way. The maneuverability, the size, even the turrets on the ship are larger, so they are easily to get hit. And most frustrating of it all is the engine. I swear, for some reason, the engine on the ship breaks constantly. Like, this is German cruisers pre-nerf or pre-patch with that buffed their chance. This is what it feels like. I used the advanced firing training and demolition expert for the increased firing chance, but I had to respec my captain from demolition expert to last stand, simply because the engine on this ship broke so often. Even when I used the premium repair that has a 40-second cooldown, it wasn't enough. If you get in any sort of fight with this Tashkent, the engine just constantly breaks. And it's very frustrating, and it basically makes last stand a mandatory pick on the ship. And it wasn't like this on the Kiev. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as this on the Kiev, but on the Tashkent it just constantly breaks. So overall, this ship is, in my opinion, in pretty much every single way a downgrade from the Kiev. The only thing that's better is, well, you get better detection with the detection module, and of course you get the 8-kilometer torpedoes, but these aren't really the strengths of the ship. Like, even with all this detection buffs, you still won't have a good detection compared to any of the other nations' DDs, and the torpedoes still won't be that competitive regardless with these upgrades. So basically you gain a lot of buffs to things that you don't really get a lot of advantage from, whereas you lose a lot of strengths that you lose your main strengths, like your ability to fight. Luckily your guns are still very accurate, very long range, very accurate. As you can see here, I'm weaving back and forth. I don't think he didn't hit a single shot on me, that Mayhem, because I was weaving and his gun trajectories couldn't keep up, or projectile speed couldn't keep up with me. Whereas my guns are much faster, much flatter arc, and basically I could easily take him on 1-1. You saw there, instantly engine incapacitated. In this clip, I think I'm not using last stand yet, I'm still using, I think, Demolition Expert. But you see, steering engine, those two constantly break. I just repaired, I took one hit, and I lost my steering again. It's something that basically happens all the time. And it's what finally made me make the switch, to switch away from steering to, to Last Stand, or from Demolition Expert to Last Stand. Because this constant braking was too much. So how do you play this ship then? Well, what I'm doing here now is, as I said, you sit at a very long range and you constantly take pot shots at everything, and you have to move, you have to avoid a lot, just like with the Kiev, but you have to do it at the longer range. You basically have to be more careful because the ship doesn't handle nearly as well and it's much larger, so it's easier to hit. Offensive smokes are also a lot more riskier with this ship. I still use them, of course, but because of the size of your ship, if ships decide to shoot back into your offensive smoke, they actually hit you quite often now. That doesn't really happen with USDDs or the Kiev, but on the oh look, engine broke again. This is what I mean. That one single shell hit, and well, this is the third time my engine broke. This was why I switched away from Demolition Expert Last Stand. Like, even with my premium require, and that has a 40-second cooldown, I still can't keep up with how often my engine's breaking. And this is when I'm sitting at this max range. I'm asking what my team is doing, since I'm basically, if you look at the minimap, I'm fighting all their ships alone on this entire flank, while my team is basically fighting 2 cruisers, all 4 or 5 of them. But whatever, teams tend to be a bit strange. But this is why, basically, why I go a bit of a different Captain Perk path, but I'll go into that more later. The ship isn't bad though. I mean, even though it's simply worse than the Kiev, and the Kiev was an amazing ship. But just because it's worse than the Kiev doesn't mean it's a bad ship. You can still do a significant amount of damage with it. You can still play it like any other Soviet DD. You can harass, you can destroy, and once you get Last Stand, you don't get crippled as much anymore. So it's a fun ship to play, and I don't think, I've heard some people talking about even 3xPing this, but nah, there's no need for that. You can still play it just fine. Here I charge in close, slow down, pop an offensive smoke. I angle my ship slightly so that I'm not being shot by him. I don't have the upgraded torps here yet. If I had them, I would probably shoot them now because they have 8 km range. They are quite slow though, but I don't have them yet on this guy because that's where the last modules I got. But here was the advantage of using Demolition Expert though. You get quite a bit of fires, but it doesn't outweigh the trade-off that is not having Last Stand. But of course, fires are nice for the damage buff. But if you face aggressive Bensons and such, then it becomes very hard to survive. Or well, you can usually beat them 1v1, but the thing is, they will cripple you and they will leave you stranded without engine power, and then the other ships will kill you. You saw how close that was, by the way. You just shot blindly into the smoke. And that's why it doesn't, offensive fires or offensive smokes don't really work in ranked, because all 6 or 7 of the enemy ships shoot into the smoke, even if they can't see you. And because of the size of the ship, you just end up being completely slaughtered. I've tried it in like rank 5 as a ranked games, and there was no chance. I tried offensive smokes and just everyone just poured damage in there, and I just took a massive beating, lost half my HP and had to reverse. I tried it against different teams, different players, they all did the same. The ship is too large and too easy to pinpoint in the smoke. Even if you're moving around, you're still gonna get basically completely slaughtered on this ship. So, not as strong for ranked as I hoped, but well, it happens. The gunpowder firepower on the ship is still very nice. As you can see, easily took out the Yorick, that wandered too close. And I'm going back to my typical harassment of these battleships. But harassing battleships is probably one of the things that you're the best at, because of course they have a very slow reload, and even though they have hard-hitting large shells, if you manage to dodge them, you have a lot of like free time to just pour damage on them. And of course, putting fires on those deal a lot of damage, and of course battleships have a very long cooldown on their repair. So that's why I'm constantly harassing these battleships. It also gives my team, who are, I'm not certain what they're doing on the side, gives them basically freedom, because the battleships are focusing on me instead of focusing on them. I'm not really certain what this guy is doing. He's reversing, then he's pushing again. Of course you can see my speed, 48.1 knots, that's with the speed flag and the speed boost. So this is a very very fast ship, but then again so was the Kiev. But in comparison to the Kiev, this ship definitely requires some adjustment. You have to get used to that you are no longer basically invincible, and you have to play basically more careful. You can't be the hyper aggressive DD that you were with the Kiev, but you have to adjust to a more defensive playstyle. And it's not easy, because especially without Last Stand, I think Last Stand, it's at this point I'd even have a hard time picking between Last Stand and what's it called, Advanced Firing Training. I think I'd still take Advanced Firing Training because it gives you more safety to be able to sit at range, but still, it's just rough. Managed to take out the battleship. He tried to land some shells on me, couldn't. Now I'm switching to the Shokaku. Our carrier has done a good job of keeping him busy in general, and we have some DD who's harassing him as well, so that's nice. I'm just basically helping him out here. I'd love to get a fire on him. Oh, he might already have one, it's not just rendering. Ever since 0.51 came out, there have been so many issues with shit rendering at long range. I don't know what they broke, but you can't see smoke plumes, you can't see fires properly, you can't see torpedo wings properly. Like, they've somehow managed to fuck it all up, and I have no idea how that got past the quality assurance team, but apparently it did. It's a bit of a shame. Well, that's the Shokaku dead, and this game is very much starting to turn into a win now. There's little they can do at this point. But this is much of the gameplay you need to adjust to, like, even with the 8km torps, you will very rarely be using them, because you don't want to push that close anymore. I mean, of course, if you manage to fight the DD 1v1, you can charge in and kill him, because you are a god at killing other DDs simply because of your high HP and huge guns, or well, very powerful guns. But it's very rarely it's just one guy, it's often other guys shooting as well. So it's risky. Pushing into, is it worth the trade-off to push in to kill a DD if you end up being focused by their team? Because unlike the Kiev, you can't just quickly turn away and run away and avoid the shells, because you take a lot of hits in the ship. And that's probably the roughest wake-up call of them all, going from the Kiev to the ship, is the amount of damage you take. You look at your HP pool and you think, wow, I gained all this HP, I'm much tankier. But in reality, this ship is squishier than the Kiev, simply because of its size. You see up third against him. He still managed to land one shell down. I got 2 fires, but I think those torps are gonna finish him. No, he avoided them.
Smoke generator started.
This Fubuki was pushing up on me. If you saw on the minimap, he was charging in, he was constantly shooting at me, and he was trying to basically take a fight with me. And if he had gotten close, that he could have had a good chance of basically doing a significant amount of damage to me. But I wasn't basically going to give him a fair fight. Instead, I slowed down and popped an offensive smoke, and because he had fired and there was a plane detecting him, he was constantly detected. So basically turned this fight from his advantage into his massive disadvantage, where he can't see me and has to flee. And now that he's fleeing, and I've already chunked so much of his HP, and I've probably forced his repair, and I know that he's fleeing, now I pop my speed boost and now I start chasing. So I basically made sure I had the advantage in the fight before I took it. That's important, especially when fighting other DDs. Some ships have natural advantages, like Fubuki very close will have a torpedo advantage and such, so always try to turn it into your own advantage. Actually, the optimal range at fighting DDs is honestly around maybe 5 to 6 kilometers. Your guns will be very, very powerful, and if they try to run away, you can catch up to them. If they try to close distance, you can turn away from them. So you want to keep that basically the buffer, where the torpedoes are useless and it becomes a pure gunfight, because that's where you are obviously the strongest DD in the game. But my overall impressions with the Tashkent, I'm not really impressed. I'm hoping the Udaloi will be better, but this is nowhere near the joy to play that the Kiev was. This is definitely the clunkier, fatter cousin of the Kiev. Trying to avoid these HE shells. Still good at this though. Like this is the range I meant that I mean that you have to play this on Kiev. I would probably be a bit closer. But on the Tashkent, it's worth missing some shots every now and then, just because I can stay at this relative safety. I'm capping their base while I'm fighting this guy, and I got a fire on him now with his reload on cooldown. He's shooting at me again, so I'm turning. Got another fire on him. This guy is burning to death now. His repair is on cooldown, and he's got like 2 or 3 fires. Oh, and got a high caliber out of him. That's always nice. And well, I won't have time to kill him because we capped the base. Yeah, the money and XP is quite good. Yeah, basic speed not that special, but 5 kills is always nice. The damage is about 141k. Not as something you would do on the Kiev, but I don't think the Tashkent quite lives up to the reputation the Kiev gave to the Russian DDs. It's not quite up to par. It's a fun ship though, and it's quite good, but it's not insane like the Kiev was. Anyways, let's move on to the things first. When it comes to modules, you'll want the range. As I spoke of the importance of having the additional range, that's obviously the first upgrade you'll be wanting to get. Second is naturally the hull upgrade, and then there's the torpedoes. I got the torps quite late, but I recommend getting them right away. That was basically me just experimenting with 4 kilometers if they work, but the 8 kilometer ones are obviously a significant advantage. Even though you lose some speed, you still get more options to play with the 8 kilometers ones. So it's definitely worth the upgrade. Consumable wise, I use the premium repair, even though I have last stand, simply because I feel like shit breaks so much on this ship that I just need it. And I use the premium smoke for obvious reasons. Offensive smokes are fantastic. And just the default speed boost. No point getting a premium one. And upgrade wise, of course, the same as we did. Basically, everything is identical to the Kiev. We want the main battery protection. We want accuracy. Even when I have last stand, I still use this because it keeps breaking over and over again. And even if last stand significantly minimizes the effect it has, it's still nice to reduce that chance, because it still has an impact on your speed and maneuverability, especially when you need to get out of somewhere quick. And of course, turn rate, because the rudder shift on this ship, well, it's quite good with the mod, but by default this turning circle is just so massive. Like 730, jeez, what's my ZAO? Okay, it is still smaller, smaller than the ZAO. That had me worried. It's the same as my Admiral Hipper. That kind of gives you an idea. It has the same turning circle as my Admiral Hipper. That's pretty goddamn nuts. Anyway, and last is of course minus 10% the detectability, so it puts you at 8.5. With the camo, I think you're at like 8.2 or something. That's pretty close then. Flag-wise, only ones that are... Speed is always nice, because you already have such great speed, so further enchanting it is always nice. And of course detonation flags, since with 0.5.1 it feels like I'm detonating far more often than I did before. So especially on a DD, I highly recommend to use the detonation flags, especially for the DD. And then I usually use this one just to save some cost. Actually, I don't really need it on a TH. That's a bit of a waste. I'm gonna save it for my T9 and T10 ships. And camo detection, you don't really... I don't feel like this is as valuable as the detection is. And finally we can move on to captain skills, which is actually a bit of a discussion here. First of all, all DDs must naturally have situation awareness. You need to know when you're detected, when you're in your smoke and so forth, because the game's default way of letting you know if you're in a smoke or not is very, very flimsy and seems unreliable. So situation awareness a must have. Secondary armament, considering you're a gun-based DD, this is a flat out 10% DPM increase. Very obvious, you should obviously have this. Here, once again, expert marksman. Your turret traverse is actually not that impressive by default, I think. Yeah, you need that to be able to duke it out with the US DDs. And there's no point getting the torps. Maybe at T10 I'll get the torps. I'm hesitant about this because I still feel like it will be mostly gun-based playing. Third perk, obviously Superintendent, smoke. Very simple, you need that additional smoke. And this is where it gets interesting. I actually have both advanced firing training and last stand. Now, which one of these is better? I would probably put it at advanced firing training, simply for the safety it offers, that you can sit further back and shoot. But for the Tashkent, as soon as you can afford to get this build, I highly recommend it, because your engine just keeps breaking. That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know what it is about the design of this ship. Somehow, like, this entire midsection of the ship is somehow getting hit anywhere there instantly breaks your engine. So definitively try to get the points to have them both. Highly recommend it. Like, even if I get the points to get concealment expert, I wouldn't bother. The only thing that preventive main, I don't even know, maybe. Nah, not really. I think I'll still keep last stand. It's just, these two perks are simply too strong on this ship, or too necessary, really. Like, I can't even imagine what not having either of these on a Tashkent. Like, I feel like this ship would be absolutely awful. It seems to rely so heavily on captain perks compared to other ships. But that was my not so impressed commentary of the Tashkent.